Good morning, guys. How are we all doing? I am Dan from Trading with Dan. This is an Arbitrum price prediction video. So obviously we all know Arbitrum is going live tomorrow. It is a much anticipated airdrop. People have been waiting for this one for a long time. There was a lot of teasing going on, but finally the day is almost upon us. So yes, I wanted to do a prediction video just to see what figures I could come up with, calculating it in the most sensible way that I think is possible. So let's go straight over to the data. So I do believe the first point of reference to see what price we will get for Arbitrum tomorrow will actually be what Optimism did at its launch. So this was basically its launch here, and if we have a look at this this area of price action here, we would probably have to say, I know we did rally afterwards, we had this moves up and we are now sitting around $2.50 a coin, but initially we were trading in and around the 50 cent area. So that is what we are going to use as our first point of reference, is the 50 cent area, because that is basically what Optimism was at launch. And I know you're thinking, oh, what about relative market caps and TVLs? Well, just bear with me and you will see my logic of how I'm calculating it. So speaking of that logic, let's go over to see this fine gentleman, Stephen Gold Feeder. Yeah, he is the co-founder of Chain Labs, and he is building Arbitrum. He's one of the main guys, and he did this tweet, this famous tweet: the appetizer is always served before the main course. So what he was saying, this was when Optimism was launching. He's basically saying that Optimism launch is going to be the appetizer and the Arbitrum launch is going to be the main course. So with that, armed with that information, we are then going to we obviously need to find out a good way of comparing obviously the airdrops. So one way that I thought was a good way of comparing them, to say that your airdrop is going to be the main course and Optimism's was the appetizer. We assume the main course has to be bigger than the appetizer, and obviously we measure things in dollars, don't we? We are talking dollars. So what we're going to do first is we're actually going to look at the max, the maximum Optimism allocation, and the max allocation was 27,500 and something. And if we I haven't actually found the details of it, but the max, I haven't actually found the details written out, but I know what it is. The maximum allocation for the Arbitrum airdrop was 10,250. That's the most you can get, 10,250 tokens with Arbitrum. This is the most you can get with the 27,000 with the Optimism airdrop, which is 27,500 tokens. So we are going to use that as a point of reference. So we're going to go over to my little spreadsheet here. So we have 27,500 tokens, and we have a nice conservative price of 50 cent. So that gives us a $13,767 starter. That's what our starter was. So this was our starter, right? So we're going to start with that figure. So if we have $13,767, all things being equal, going by my logic, all things being equal, if we're gonna have if we're only gonna have 10,250 as the max, that has to give us basically this number divided by 10,0250 to what would give us a token price. So if we got $1.34 in token price at launch for our max account, not saying we have them, but just the people that get the max 10,250, $1.34 will give them 13,700, which was the same as the max amount of dollar value of airdrop for OP at launch. $1.34, nice. But let's not forget there are a few differences here. Number one was there was a difference in the BTC price at that time. So we're gonna look, and this was around the launch around June, July. If we have a look at the OP chart, we can see it's around here, around June, July. Bitcoin price around June, July, it's around here. So we're just gonna do a quick from here to where we are now, 35-ish%. We'll use 35% as a ballpark figure. So that has to give us if we multiply that by 1.35 will give us a 35% extra, just based on the BTC difference. So that gives us a $1.81. Now this next bit, I wasn't too sure whether to use it or not, because what we have is Optimism didn't do all of its airdrop to the community allowance in one go. They only do 5%, and Arbitrum is actually doing basically 11.62%. We'll just call it 11% or whatever, roughly 11%. So they are doing over double the amount of they're doing 100% of the airdrop, not a smaller amount, which is translating to 11% of the tokens in one go, not 5% of the tokens that OP did initially. So I don't know whether I should say that's roughly double. So I mean, you can't really say yours is going to be a main course just because you're going to release more tokens, but maybe you can. So I mean, maybe we could do two calculations, but we will just keep it on the conservative side. So we will ignore the fact that they are dropping more than double the amount of percentage of tokens. And I mean, if you're trying to say that is how you do a main course, maybe, because maybe main course all it is just more. It's just more. But there is another thing that we do have to take into account. That is that a starter is smaller than the main course. So it is smaller than a main course. And I mean, how many times smaller is a starter than a main course? I would say, I mean, if you said it's twice the size, that is been massively underestimating it. It's probably 3 or 4 times the size. But for the sake of not being too unrealistic, we're gonna go with twice the size. So our main course is going to be twice the size. That means our main course obviously has to be twice the size of this. This was based just on, this price is just based on that and the BTC difference. So obviously we need to do a nice little I've done the times first. We need to do this equals our price here times by 2. $3.63, and that is not to take into account they're dropping more tokens. So is $3.63 a reasonable price based on the very technical factor of this tweet? I mean, if it isn't this price or around this price, then I basically I guess we get to laugh at this tweet for being rubbish. But we don't want that. We don't want to laugh at that tweet. We want that tweet to be realistic, because this would be a very nice price, wouldn't it? So that brings us to the end of this price prediction video. There is my price prediction. This is at launch, but don't forget, guys, yeah, like I said, this is at launch. So if you wanted to look at what the price went up to for OP, we're currently sat around $2.50 right now at this present time. So after all the dumping and playing around is done, if we now sit at $2.50, and I know we obviously took relative BTC values, BTC is up as well, so it won't be a perfect calculation, but that is it is obviously roughly 5x. Bitcoin itself was up, as we saw, about 35% itself. So we'll actually be extra conservative, and then we'll say a 2.5x, which is 50% less. So 50% is obviously a lot less than 35% of an increase. A 35% increase is obviously a lot less of a 50% of an increase, but we'll call it 50% less. So instead of a 2.5x, we will call it a 1.25x. So we'll times it by 2.25. that would give us a 1.25x. So if we go over to here, sorry, if it's a 5 times, we'll times it by 2.5. So it will give us an equals this multiplied by 2.5, and that is not to give us a price of what we expect it at launch. That is to give it a price of what we expect it after, obviously, a little bit of settling out. But don't forget, if Bitcoin is to continue its uptrend above 30k here, then we could realistically be looking at equivalent values here. So we could be looking at a 5x, and if we're looking at a 5x, what does that give us in a few months? Times 5, that gives us a value of $18.13. So yeah, that would be pretty nice, wouldn't it? So yeah, that is pretty much it. That is the end of this price prediction video. So yeah, thank you for listening, and let me know what you think. Let me know how scientific you think my calculations are or not. And yeah, that is it, guys. Thanks for listening. I shall speak to you guys soon.